In this tutorial, we shall learn how to save data to a database. And there are various options available: SQLite, in-memory, Cosmos, Postgres, MySQL, Oracle. So many versions are available, and all these can be used in your project. And these are the nugget packages you will need. These are common for all, and this one is specific to your database. SQLite, this one. For others, like uh, these this version of MySQL, this version of MySQL, this Postgres, whatever you use, you will change this one, and that will configure everything for you. So in this project, something is submitted and a record saved message is shown. In the next tutorial, we shall show how to display that data, but it will save only this time. So we'll be covering Entity Framework Core, migrations, and connection strings through app-settings.json file. So this is the objective of this tutorial. So let's now begin. This is what we were doing in the previous tutorial. You can go through that for a better understanding of this tutorial. And we will start with this. First of all, I have already completed the project, so I'll show the steps. The first thing you should do is to create a model class that represents your entity. This is customer ID, and this is automatically incremented primary key, and this is the field customer name in that table that will be used, and this is the validation star required, etc. We have already done this in the previous tutorial. So this is how. So model must be added for each entity. For each entity, a model class must be added to your project, like customer we have done. The next thing that we have to do is we will have a look at the main data entry page. This is the backing class, and I will explain what I have added so far for this particular project. This is bind. This we will take later. I will explain it later in this tutorial, but this bind property, as we did in the previous tutorial, this temp data for feedback message, these are as such, and then this constructor injection we'll talk later in this tutorial. Then we have an on post async with a task async, because for database operations you should use async. In the last tutorial we used action result, but this time it should be changed to a task, because database entry is going to take place. As usual, validation, and the remainder part I will take later in this tutorial. So this is the data entry form that I am actually showing to you. This is the HTML, the feedback message, the form, the label for customer name, input text box for customer name, the validator for customer name, and then this is the submit button that will actually execute the on post method that we have done there. So this is the backing class. You can have a look at this. It just contains nothing. And so after this, let us come to the project context class that we have also added. This is project context. You could have named anything, but it has to inherit from DB context. So this actually represents your database communication class. This is the class that connects to your database. Basically, it's a database communicator. and here towards the top I have added the install packages for Nugget. We will install them one by one first. All the three will be installed. Go to package manager console and I will paste that, hit enter and let the installation complete. All the three packages I will install one by one. This is for SQLite. Paste and allow it to install. And the third one for framework tools. This one also I will add and ensure that they add successfully to your project. In fact, as I would say, this is the uh, first thing that you should do. Do these as your first thing whenever you do a project that involves databases. Then I'll show some parts in this class. This is a constant that represents the directory that will contain our database. This is the constructor. This constructor receives I configuration. This I configuration is received through dependency injection. You can just remember how it is occurring instead of going into details. So this is the read only. This configuration is cached through constructor. So this is the underscore configuration that is cached. You can just remember this if you don't want to go into details. Otherwise you can study. But why are we doing this? So that's one question that you will want to know. For this, let's come to Solution Explorer, and in the app settings file, I have added a property. This property, connection strings property that I have added, this property is called connection strings and it contains a property called SQLite con. This is basically the connection string, your connection string that you will store in your app settings.json file. You can give any names. These connection strings, SQLite con, give any names. These names will be used in your project context. This was already there, but I have added this connection strings property, as you can see. So added this. So this is the thing that we need to read. We need to read in the project context. And as you can see, this underscore configuration is used at this point to read the connection string called SQLite con. So this is the purpose of getting your underscore configuration, so that we can read that connection string here, and I will explain the other parts. This is the DB set of your customer object, and this is pluralized property that represents the collection of all the customers for entity framework purposes. And in this override of on configuring, we will say use SQLite and pass your connection string. If you use other database, you can say use MySQL or whatever database you want to use. You will get this property somewhere there. So whatever you have, you can set it like this. So this is the overall structure of your project context. So you can have a look at the file. It's a simple file, and if this is clear, then let's move further. Next we'll come to our index.cshtml.cs file again. We get this project context again through dependency injection, and we'll cache it as underscore ctx. And it is this constructor again through dependency injection. This project context, it again comes through dependency injection provided by the system. Some magic, as you can think. So it is here, this underscore ctx is cached, and if you don't understand this, then this constructor is actually underscore ctx equal to the same thing, but in a shortcut way that has been done. It is the same constructor that actually caches or stores your project context for use. And now we are ready to understand other parts of this on post async. This is asynchronous for database connectivity. This is validator, and this is underscore ctx dot add customer. So it is here insertion takes place, and customer is obtained through the bind property. This bind property brings the data of the customer fully filled from the form, and then we add it to the context, and then we have context or save changes async, a message. If error occurs, then error message, and finally there is a redirect to the page that will show the feedback message. This is, as you can see, the whole index model class. And finally we have to set the program.cs also. Here this is the create builder as already, add razor pages already, but this time we have added your db context. The project context has been added to the dependency container. So this service will be available throughout your project, and map razor pages, and then we have just a log message, any message, just to show you that how logging can be done. Any log I have shown here, and after this is more important part. This will give you the services, and we'll create the directory for database. This directory is the same as we wrote here. So database directory of the name database will be created if it doesn't exist, and then we extract the project context here once again. This project, if database has any pending migrations, then we'll migrate it and say identity migrations applied. All this can be seen in the console window that runs aside. And if still the database cannot connect, then have you applied migration, and this message will be shown so that the user can make an initial migration of the database, create the database. So this is what I will run it and then show it to you practically how it's going to work. So you can copy paste this code in your own projects also, modify it if it is required, but usually it works. And now with all the things in place, let's run it. We see that a failure occurs because database wasn't created, and the message as we set there, this is fail, have you applied migration? Open package manager console and run this command. This command will cause the database to be created. I've copied it and I'll bring it to the package manager console, paste it and hit enter. It will take some time and will say it's done, succeeded. And what actually happens is a migrations folder is created with two automatically created files. So this you can read yourself. It contains some table logic. So it is already created for us. And now if we run this project, the window opens and database folder, and the database is now created for us. So this is how it's actually working, and we'll now show. First run empty, validator is running, so it's correct. Now put some data and submit. Record is saved. So this means things are working okay, and in our next tutorial we'll display this data. We'll close it. Thank you.